r/AskReddit. Dear Reddit, what is your weirdest dream or nightmare you've ever had? My first memory was a nightmare I had when I was around 5. I remember it vividly, and I have no idea why it scared me so much. I look back and laugh at it because it is so weird. Anyways, my friends and we are all playing in my childhood home. Then there was a knock at the door. My friend went to open it, and there was Barney at the door. My friend invited him in, but every time he looked at me, he had evil red eyes. No one else noticed this. Eventually, Barney tried to get everyone outside. I followed hesitantly, and as soon as I stepped outside I saw that Triceratops character charging everyone with her horns, and had glowing red eyes. That was when I realized they were out for blood. I tried to get everyone to run, but they wouldn't listen. I watched Barney and the Triceratops take down my younger brother, and that's when I woke up. I saw a man die in my dream when I was about 10. It was the way he died that was weird. I remember him laying on his side and puking like he had been poisoned. The puke changed color, texture, and consistency every time he puked. Eventually, he was eaten by parasites from the inside. When I woke up I asked myself why I would ever dream of something like this, and if something was wrong with me. Just happened that one time, though. After my grandmother died, she would appear to me at night, sitting alongside my bed in the rocking chair that she had willed me. It didn't feel like a dream, it seemed vividly real. She and I would talk about many things, some of which we'd never discussed when she had been alive. I would ask questions, and she'd give clear answers. These nightly episodes went on for weeks after her death. When they finally stopped, I was sad that she no longer appeared. Once I dreamt I was chopping meat off of meat hooks with butter knives and feeding it to robotic heads. There were no bodies, just the heads chomping down on the meat I threw to them. And while doing that I was also talking to an aristocratic cockroach called Mr. Johnson, who I knew was an aristocrat because he was wearing a tuxedo, a monocle, and was fat. He had a deep raspy kind of voice, and I don't recall our conversation. However, at one point he said he had to go, and I asked, "But Mr. Johnson, won't you stay for dinner?" To which he replied, "No, and you won't either." And then I woke up 1 or 2 minutes before my alarm rang. Mr. Johnson became a joke among my group of friends, and a supervillain alongside Mal Pig, the evil swine. I work at a zoo, and we had crazy tigers. They have since been sent to a big cat sanctuary because they never really adjusted well to our location. But they used to sneak and ambush you when walking by their enclosure. No joke, you are minding your business and they would rush and pounce at the fence in full kill mode and scare the ever living shit out of you. The tigers are gone and in their new home, but there's a number of us that still have tiger nightmares. I had a dream a couple of hours ago about a man named Lewis that moved to Australia from America after years of abuse from his father towards him and his sisters. One of his sisters passed away. It felt so real, and I felt such a strong connection. I tried looking it all up, but alas couldn't find anything because it wasn't real. It's got me really fucked up, to be honest. I contacted this person and we connected, and I loved him. But it was just a dream. Then I woke up back to this depressing lonely reality. I've had a dream where I was walking in the corridor of my apartment at night. I spot an old woman with a cloth tied around her head to protect herself from the chilling cold. She was at the end of the corridor. I turn and look at her, and she looks up at me and drops her walking stick. Her eyes were black and her mouth twisted into a snarl. I was frozen to the spot. She started fucking sprinting towards me, and I didn't hesitate to nope the fuck out of there. I was extremely slow at running in the dream and the corridor never seemed to end. I turned around while running, and the old woman was inches from my face, but was now smiling. She told me to stop and look at her. She was just about to say something when I woke up. It was 8:47 in the morning and my parents were in my room, packing. My mum was ironing out my clothes. We were moving to India from Singapore that day. It was 2012, and I was 11. When we went to our rented room for the time being in India, I shit you not, the room number was 847. being in a completely white room with no perceivable door or windows. Around the entire room about 3 inches from the ceiling is a model train track that comes into the room through a small tunnel from one wall, wraps the whole room, and then returns into a tunnel at the opposite side of the first wall. It is also completely white. On this track comes a small white model tank, smoking from its barrel the entire time it travels round the room. I get an anxious feeling of displacement, like the odd sensation you get if you take your thumb and push it as far as it will reach between your pointer and middle finger. I don't know why that specific action makes me get the same feeling of displacement, but it's the closest thing to it that I've been able to find out in the waking world. I have this dream around 5 to 6 times a year, and thus has been happening for more than 10 years now. I have no idea why. I once had a dream where I was walking through an incredibly vivid but unfamiliar city. During the dream I was quite intent on examining my surroundings and accidentally walked onto the street where I ended up getting hit by a car and I woke up. Fast forward to a few days later and we were on a road trip. We stopped for lunch at a little town near Canberra. After getting out of the car I started looking around and I got some déjà vu vibes. It looked and felt eerily similar to my dream. For the next few minutes I was running through what I could remember of the dream and comparing it to the town. Unbeknownst to me, I had started wandering onto the road during my contemplations. At this point I reached the part of my dream where I got hit and I suddenly just decided to stop walking. A car sped past maybe a step away from me, had me rattled, but I was alright. This is the earliest nightmare I can remember. So for some reason, my mom was trapped in one of those many pinball maze things, don't know the exact name, and we brought her to the doctors for whatever reason. And after a while the doctors concluded the only way to free her was to skin me alive. And the next thing I know, I see the doctor slowly coming towards me with a scalpel as I scream and everything fades to black. The next thing I know is the doctor, my dad, and my mom, who is now free, are all standing there happy. They all look at me as the next image is me completely skinned. And then I woke up. It's been 10 years, and I still remember that fucked up dream. I was quite young when I had this dream. I was outside at an apartment complex that I've never seen before, but in the dream I was living there. I saw my dad leave for work in his blue coveralls and red lunch bag. He worked at a chemical plant around that time. I saw my white cat outside and he went back to the apartment. I started walking home with the long-haired boy who was like a neighbor, a person I have never seen before. I roll. When I got in the door, the day suddenly turned to evening, and I quickly looked out the blinds and saw my neighbor standing on top of another kid, again, no one I've seen before, pinning him down and holding a hatchet. The neighbor chopped off the head of the other kid, and black tentacles emerged from where his head was. That's where the dream ends. I have two types of recurring dreams that are weird. The first is that I'm back either in high school or college and there is a class or two that I have just completely ignored all year, and then I'm freaking out about how I'm going to pass. The weirdest thing is that halfway through the dream I remember I graduated college years ago, but it somehow makes sense that I'm back in school for some reason. The second is that I find a hidden door in the house I grew up in, and it leads to a mysterious hidden room or sometimes an entire floor. I really enjoy these because it's really cool exploring these places and trying to figure out why they were blocked off and how long it has been since someone has been there. I was in a car with my brother, sister, and stepmom who all three were arguing about the quickest route to the school they went to, and I eventually got frustrated and decided to walk home. On the way I passed this cartoon looking police station with a holographic mugshot of my dad looking smug with a caption under it reading 20 minutes ago. I looked down the road I had to walk and saw some dudes sizing me up, so thinking on my feet dream me started to act like a crazy tweaker to be left alone. Somehow I end up at the top of an escalator at a mall, and at the bottom I see two freakishly tall ogre looking dudes fucking with people, so when I get to the bottom I carry the girl in front of me to safety, and she thanks me with relationship advice. Had a nightmare I was being chased by Freddy Krueger when I was a kid. Parents shouldn't have let me watch that. In a ho, he was chasing me through my house as he does to his victims. I ran upstairs. The doors were closing like Indiana Jones being chased by boulder closing, so I had to roll under them. Finally I was safe in my room, or so I thought. Freddy appears in a corner laughing at me and telling me he's going to kill and so on. He starts growing to fill the room, and then his hand turned into a slice of pizza and stabbed me with it, and then I woke up.